What if, in this very moment, the universe simply stopped? Not gradually, not with the fading warmth of dying stars, but in an instant, like a switch flipped, like a breath cut short. Imagine everything you know: the motion of your lungs, the pulse beneath your skin, the rotation of Earth itself, halted, as though reality had been unplugged from a hidden source. And then, without warning, everything returned. Would you notice? Could you ever know it happened if the clock of existence lost a second and then started again? Or would you feel only a vague unease, as though something unnamed slipped through the cracks of your memory? This is not only a thought experiment whispered in philosophy. It is a question lurking in physics itself. Could the universe have been turned off and on, perhaps many times before, and left us none the wiser? If the cosmos is a program, then the question of a reboot is not fantastical, but almost inevitable. Every program reaches a moment when it stutters, when the lines of code hiccup, when continuity itself cannot hold. Perhaps what we call dark energy, the mysterious force tearing galaxies apart, expanding the fabric of space faster and faster, is the visible scar of such a restart. Imagine existence not as a smooth river, but as a sequence of pulses, flickering like the light of a projector, each frame so closely stitched together we believe in motion. Yet, between those frames is the darkness, the nothingness, a gap where time does not flow. What if we live inside such a flicker? Physics whispers of fragility. Quantum fields hum with fluctuations, jittering, restless, never at peace. The vacuum itself, the so-called emptiness of space, is alive with uncertainty. Virtual particles appear and vanish, borrowing existence from nothing. As though reality is constantly testing whether it can continue. We assume the foundation is stable because we need it to be stable. But what if stability is only a thin surface tension stretched across an abyss? What if beneath our feet lies not solid ground but a trap door, waiting for the weight of the universe to break it open? The ancients imagined gods pulling levers. Modern physicists imagine equations stretched to their breaking point. The difference is language, not fear, because whether we describe it with myth or mathematics, the dread remains the same, that all of this, all the love, all the memory, all the struggle, is temporary not in the sense of years, but in the sense of a switch, a cosmic off, a cosmic one, and each time it happens, everything we are may be written again, as though nothing changed, while in truth everything has been replaced. Think about your memories. You trust them because they arrive with the illusion of continuity. Yesterday feels connected to today, and today will feel like the root of tomorrow. But what if that continuity is simulated? What if the universe switched off 1,000 times in the past second, and switched back on each time with perfect replicas of your thoughts, your body, your history? You would not know. The very nature of the reboot erases evidence of its own occurrence. Like a flame that dies and is reignited instantly, the glow appears unbroken, though the fire is no longer the same. Now, stretch this beyond the human scale. Consider galaxies, vast spirals wheeling through silence, their stars strung like beads across billions of years. They too appear continuous. But what if their arcs, their collisions, their luminous births and deaths are being stitched together frame by frame, reality reloaded again and again? If a switch had already been thrown, if the universe had already rebooted, would the galaxies scream? Or would they too open their eyes as if nothing happened, convinced of their eternal dance? Dark energy may be the whisper that something is wrong. The universe should slow down as it ages, its momentum spent, gravity pulling galaxies together. Instead, it accelerates outward, faster and faster, as though pushed by an unseen hand. Some physicists believe this hand is not a steady force, but the residue of a cosmic event. A reset that left behind excess tension, like a wound that never healed. To live inside such a wound is to live inside a secret. And to suspect it is to awaken in a dream and wonder if the dreamer is still asleep. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. One instant, everything, your heartbeat, the voices of the world, the humming circuits of stars, stops. Nothing exists, not even silence. The next instant, it all returns, perfectly intact, perfectly convincing. Would you call it continuity, or would you call it faith? For the difference between them may be thinner than the width of a thought. We measure time in seconds, but the universe may measure it in cycles. Off, On, off, on. A cosmic strobe light whose flashes are so quick we mistake them for permanence. In the laboratory, we already know particles flicker between states, that identity itself is not fixed. A neutrino is not one thing, but three, shifting masks as it travels, as though reality cannot decide on a single face. If this is true for the smallest, why not for the largest? Why not for everything? Some philosophers suggest we may have already been annihilated, that the universe could have decayed into a lower vacuum state in an instant, rewritten its own laws, and reinstated us seamlessly. To us, continuity remains unbroken. To reality, it may be nothing but a reprint, a second edition of existence. And if this happened once, why not twice? Why not 1,000 times? Why not now? Every light we see in the sky comes with delay. When you look at a star, you see its past, not its present. In a sense, you are always observing ghosts. The reboot hypothesis is the same but darker. It suggests that even what you call the present may be a ghost, a reconstructed frame, placed before you by forces that ensure you never notice the transition. The human brain evolved to find patterns, not ruptures. Perhaps that is why it cannot perceive the most terrifying truth, that rupture may already have occurred. Ask yourself this: why does the universe insist on existing at all? Energy should cancel itself. Entropy should dissolve structure into chaos, yet here we are, witnessing order. It is as though something invisible chooses to reassert the pattern, again and again, against annihilation. That choice might not be conscious, it might not be divine, it might be mechanical, inevitable, a restart button buried in the foundations of physics. But for us, it means that existence is not guaranteed. It is conditional. Every second is permitted, not promised. And so, the thought presses in. If the switch is real, what happens when it flips and fails to turn back on? The end will not be fire or ice, nor heat death or collapse, but something more subtle and absolute. It will be absence. The absence of space, the absence of memory, the absence of absence itself. Nothing will remain to remember it happened. For the truest terror is not death, but erasure, the clean slate where even the story of existence has been deleted. Yet even in this possibility, there is beauty. To imagine the fragility of everything is also to feel its intensity. Every heartbeat, every breath, every act of love is lived against the silent possibility of discontinuity. Perhaps that is what makes it real, not that it is endless, but that it is contingent, flickering, granted moment by moment. Perhaps the reboot is not a curse, but a strange form of grace, giving us life in installments, second by second, as if the universe itself renews its vow to exist. But the question remains: if one day the lights go out, if the cosmos blinks and does not open its eyes again, will anyone know? Or will even the question dissolve, unanswered, in the void where no one is left to ask? And so we begin. With a switch, with a silence, with the suspicion that the universe itself may not be stable, may not be continuous, may not be real in the way we wish it to be. What follows in this story is not certainty, but shadow, not comfort, but awe. For to stare into the possibility of a reboot is to stare into the very fragility of being, and perhaps, in that fragile light, to feel more alive than ever before. The concept of cracks is not only scientific, but existential. Have you ever felt it? That strange flicker when time seems to jump, when memory feels uncertain, when a moment seems both real and unreal at once? We call them glitches, we laugh them off, but perhaps they are reminders. Reminders that continuity itself is fragile, that our perception of a seamless world may already be stitched together from pieces that do not fit perfectly. The cracks may be perceptible in human experience, not as proof but as resonance, as though the instability of reality echoes faintly in the instability of memory, of perception, of identity. If the vacuum decays, if the cracks widen, there will be no announcement, no sound, no light. It will be an ending without epilogue. One instant we will exist. The next, not even the trace of existence will remain. The universe will have rebooted itself not into another version of us, but into something utterly alien, where matter cannot form, where light cannot shine, where even the concept of time may dissolve. And if that is true, then everything we know is only a temporary script, waiting to be deleted by the larger story of physics. And yet, we endure. Against these cracks, against this inevitability, we persist. Life blooms, thoughts flow, love endures. Perhaps the cracks are not only threats but reminders that stability is a gift, not a right, that every moment is borrowed from the abyss, that existence, trembling though it is, continues by miracle after miracle, and perhaps in that trembling lies its beauty. The cracks in reality may deepen, but for now, they hold, and in their fragile endurance, we are given time to wonder, to love, to question. But the question will not go away. How long can the cracks hold before the glass shatters? How long before the switch is pressed, not by an external hand, but by the collapse of the stage on which we stand? And what happens then, when the off comes without an on? The concept of cracks is not only scientific, but existential. Have you ever felt it? That strange flicker when time seems to jump, when memory feels uncertain, when a moment seems both real and unreal at once? We call them glitches, we laugh them off, but perhaps they are reminders. Reminders that continuity itself is fragile, that our perception of a seamless world may already be stitched together from pieces that do not fit perfectly. The cracks may be perceptible in human experience, not as proof but as resonance, as though the instability of reality echoes faintly in the instability of memory, of perception, of identity. If the vacuum decays, if the cracks widen, there will be no announcement, no sound, no light. It will be an ending without epilogue. One instant we will exist. The next, not even the trace of existence will remain. The universe will have rebooted itself not into another version of us, but into something utterly alien, where matter cannot form, where light cannot shine, where even the concept of time may dissolve. And if that is true, then everything we know is only a temporary script, waiting to be deleted by the larger story of physics. And yet, we endure. Against these cracks, against this inevitability, we persist. Life blooms, thoughts flow, love endures. Perhaps the cracks are not only threats but reminders that stability is a gift, not a right, that every moment is borrowed from the abyss, that existence, trembling though it is, continues by miracle after miracle, and perhaps in that trembling lies its beauty. The cracks in reality may deepen, but for now, they hold, and in their fragile endurance, we are given time to wonder, to love, to question. But the question will not go away. How long can the cracks hold before the glass shatters? How long before the switch is pressed, not by an external hand, but by the collapse of the stage on which we stand? And what happens then, when the off comes without an on? What if the mystery of dark energy is not a force at all, but a scar? What if it is the fingerprint left behind by a universe that has already shut down once, already rebooted, already rewritten its own laws? We stand in awe of acceleration. Galaxies racing apart faster and faster, defying the expectation of slowing down. But perhaps what we call expansion is not expansion at all. Perhaps it is the aftershock of a cosmic restart, a tremor echoing through space and time from the moment the switch was flipped. Dark energy remains the most haunting enigma in physics, an invisible pressure stretching the fabric of space-time. We cannot see it, cannot touch it, cannot bottle it. We only know it exists because galaxies drift apart as if pushed by a ghost. But what if that ghost is not a steady hand, but the residue of an event? Imagine turning off a vast machine, only to power it on again. The circuits spark, the gears jolt, and the system shudders before finding its rhythm. Could our universe be in such a shudder now, an afterimage of its own interruption? The cosmological constant, the infamous lambda in Einstein's equations, may be nothing but the bruise left behind. And like any bruise, it fades slowly, but its ache remains. We see its ache in the acceleration of galaxies, in the unexplained smoothness of space, in the eerie uniformity of the cosmic microwave background. Each is a clue. Each is a scar. Each whispers of trauma at the birth of our reality, or perhaps at its rebirth. If the reboot hypothesis is true, then dark energy is not the engine of expansion. It is the glitch, the reboot residue, the cosmic hum of a system finding its footing again. Think of it like an old record player. When the needle skips, the song continues, but the jump leaves a mark in the rhythm. Dark energy may be that skip, a cosmic reminder that the universe has already jumped tracks once before. Its acceleration is not natural growth, but the uneven pace of a system rebooting, struggling to reassert its structure after collapse. Galaxies move faster not because something pushes them, but because they are carried along by the uneven settling of space itself. The thought is terrifying, yet it explains what nothing else can. Why should space expand at all? Why should nothingness have pressure? Physics offers equations, but equations are only maps, not the terrain. The terrain itself may be scarred, cracked, and repaired. We live inside the scar tissue of an older universe, its trauma still rippling through space-time, its wound still bleeding energy we cannot contain. And if scars exist, then so too does the memory of the wound. What wound? The switch. The off. The on. Look closer at the background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang. It should be random noise, scattered evenly like dust, but it is not. There are alignments, anomalies, strange cold spots that no simple expansion can explain. Perhaps these are not coincidences. Perhaps they are fingerprints, the equivalent of reboot logs, fragments of code left behind when the universe reloaded. Scientists call it the axis of evil, the great anomaly of alignment stretching across the sky. But what if it is not evil, only evidence? Evidence that the universe has already been interrupted once, maybe more than once, and that we are living inside the new script. Even time itself betrays hints of reboot. We think of it as a river, smooth and unbroken. Yet, quantum mechanics shows it can be granular, discrete, pixelated. The passage of moments may not be continuous but stitched, each instant following the next, like frames in a film. Between frames, darkness. Between instants, nothing. We believe the reel runs smoothly, but what if the reel has stopped before, rewound, and restarted? What if the film of existence has already been spliced with new beginnings? The jump cuts are invisible because continuity was restored too perfectly, but the hum of dark energy may be the faint background static, the audio glitch reminding us that the cut was real. And if this is true, what does it say about us? Are we survivors, or are we copies? If the universe rebooted, then everything we are was recompiled, reprinted, placed back into continuity as though nothing happened. Your memories, your life, your history, all seamlessly restored. But are they yours, or are they recreations? If you cannot tell the difference, does the difference matter? Or is identity itself just continuity, fragile and illusory, persisting only as long as the program keeps running? Physicists sometimes describe the universe as fine-tuned for life. Constants balance too precisely, coincidences pile too neatly. But if the reboot hypothesis is true, then fine-tuning is no miracle. It is a side effect. Each restart resets the parameters until stability holds. We exist not because we were destined, but because we are the survivors of reboots past, the byproducts of universes that collapse too quickly, too violently, too unstable to persist. We are here because this iteration, so far, has held. And yet, the scars remain. Dark energy is not a promise of safety. It is the opposite. It is a reminder that the reboot can happen again. The acceleration may not be the endless future we imagine. It may be the final aftershock before the next collapse. The universe hums with energy not because it is alive, but because it has already died once, and death leaves traces. So when you gaze at the stars, when you marvel at the galaxies, remember, they may not be expanding into eternity. They may be drifting on the ripples of a reboot, shadows in a restarted program. And you, watching, may be nothing more than continuity itself, convinced of your permanence while standing on the scar of cosmic interruption. The reboot hypothesis is not only science, it is philosophy in disguise. For if dark energy is the residue of a restart, then everything we call reality is conditional. It exists because it was allowed to resume, and it can end when the permission is revoked. The universe is not a stage that will last forever. It is a fragile performance, already interrupted once, running now only because the lights were turned back on. And the most haunting question remains, if the universe can restart, who or what holds the switch? What if this has already happened? What if the switch has been flipped before, the universe shut down and restarted, and the only reason we do not remember is because memory itself was rewritten in the reboot? What if every one of us is already a survivor of cosmic erasure, carrying within us the faintest echoes of worlds that no longer exist? Déjà vu. That strange flicker of recognition, the eerie sense that you have lived this moment before. Science explains it as a misfire of memory, a trick of neurons misaligning. But what if it is not a trick? What if déjà vu is the residue of continuity restored, a memory left over from the run of reality before the reboot? The Mandela effect. Millions remembering details differently, convinced of histories that never were. A shared hallucination, they say. Yet the scale is unsettling. What if these are not errors of memory, but artifacts of multiple universes, slightly different versions of reality stitched together after a reset? The reboot does not always align perfectly, leaving seams, glitches, and echoes. And we, perceiving them, laugh them away, never realizing they may be the evidence that we already died once. The cosmos itself holds scars. The cold spot in the cosmic microwave background, a vast region of space, chilled, empty, inexplicable. It should not exist. Yet it does. Perhaps it is the burn mark of a reboot, a place where the stitching of reality faltered, the so-called axis of evil, an eerie alignment of radiation patterns, as though the universe has a preferred direction, a bias, a memory of its previous state. None of this fits the neat symmetry we expect. But it fits the hypothesis that continuity has been broken before. And if it has been broken before, then every heartbeat we feel now is borrowed, not original. Consider the strangeness of human memory itself. We think of it as a library, reliable if flawed. But in truth, it is a reconstruction, built anew each time we recall. Memories shift, fade, alter. Perhaps this is not only biology. Perhaps it is resonance with a universe that has itself been reconstructed. The feeling that something is missing, that something is off, may be our consciousness brushing against the seams of continuity. When enough people share the same wrong memory, perhaps it is not wrong at all. Perhaps it is the lingering imprint of the version before the reboot. The stars, too, may whisper of interruption. Quasars whose light flickers in impossible synchrony across billions of light years. Galaxies whose rotation defies calculation. Great voids in the map of the cosmos, so vast they should not exist by chance. Perhaps they are not chance. Perhaps they are fractures, remnants of the last shutdown. If the universe rebooted, it would not emerge flawless. It would carry echoes, patterns that should not be there, cold spots where continuity frayed, alignments that betray an earlier script. And those anomalies are precisely what we see. But the most haunting evidence is not in the sky. It is within us. The human sense of unease, the sudden recognition of impossible familiarity, the suspicion that we have lived this before. These may be the truest clues. For if reality is rewritten, the mind is rewritten too. Continuity restored, but imperfectly. The seams invisible, except in fleeting moments of recognition that vanish as quickly as they arrive. We call them glitches. Perhaps they are more than glitches. Perhaps they are the whisper that we have already crossed the void once. If so, what does it mean to live in a rebooted universe? It means you are not original. It means you are a copy, seamless yet derivative. It means your life, your memories, your loves, all are restored files, reopened after a crash. You feel continuous only because the restoration was precise. But is that continuity real or an illusion? Does it matter? If you cannot tell the difference, are you any less yourself? Or are you, like the universe, only convinced of your permanence because you cannot perceive the interruptions? The thought gnaws. If this has already happened, it can happen again. And if it happens again, will you survive once more? Or will the next reboot choose differently, restore differently, align differently? Perhaps in the next iteration, you do not exist. Or perhaps you exist with different memories, different loves, different choices. The Mandela effect may be only the faintest shadow of what could be, a glimpse of a world where you were not you, restored into the present by the mercy of continuity. The universe does not announce its scars. It hides them in anomalies, in memory flickers, in cosmic cold spots. Yet once you know to look, they are everywhere. We have already died once. We live now only because the switch was turned back on. And that realization changes everything. For to live in a reboot is to know that stability is fiction, permanence is illusion, and continuity is mercy, not guarantee. The question is no longer whether the switch exists, it is whether it will be flipped again. What happens when the rules themselves collapse? When physics, the language we use to bind the universe to reason, falls silent? There are places in existence where our equations stop working, where infinity spills across the page, where the map no longer matches the terrain. These are the places where reality cracks, not in whispers, but in screams. And perhaps, hidden in these failures, are the signs that the universe itself is preparing for another reset. At the heart of every black hole lies a singularity, a place where gravity crushes matter into nothing, where density becomes infinite, and where time ceases to flow. Our equations do not bend there, they break. It is as though the universe writes a sentence too long, then tears the page in half. What lies inside a singularity? We do not know. Some say it is the end of space. Others say it is the seed of another cosmos, a hidden reboot chamber where physics begins again. The singularity is not simply a mystery, it is a contradiction, a wound in the script of reality where meaning collapses. If physics can end in one place, why not everywhere? If rules can fail at the core of a star, what prevents them from failing at the core of the universe itself? Then there is the Planck length, the smallest possible scale of reality. Beyond it, measurement itself dissolves, like trying to divide a shadow. It is not simply small, it is unreachable. At this depth, space becomes grainy, pixelated, as if the universe is not continuous, but coded. Each unit is indivisible, each pixel unbreakable. The smooth surface of reality is revealed as an illusion. Beneath it lies discreteness, an architecture that feels more like design than chaos. And what is code but a program? One that can be switched off, restarted, corrupted, or rewritten. If the universe has a minimum scale, it suggests a system, a machine with limits, a grid that cannot be bypassed. The Planck length is the reminder that infinity is not infinite, that continuity is not continuous, that existence is bounded by rules which themselves may fail. Quantum mechanics pushes further. Quantum tunneling reminds us that impossibility is never absolute. Particles slip through barriers they should not cross, appearing on the other side without passing through. It is as though the universe occasionally ignores its own instructions, improvising outcomes that defy expectation. This is not anomaly, it is structure. Probability allows it. But what does that say about the solidity of reality? That it is not bound but flexible, not absolute but conditional. Even probability itself betrays us. Given enough time, anything can happen, even the collapse of continuity itself. Time is another wound. We imagine it as a line, but in relativity it bends, warps, slows. Near a black hole, a second for one observer can stretch into eternity for another. Time has no single rhythm. It is stitched from perspective. If time is not absolute, then continuity itself is not absolute. And when we push the equations to their limits, at the beginning of the cosmos or in the heart of collapse, time ceases to exist altogether. How can a universe that requires time to function exist at all if time is not fundamental? Perhaps it cannot. Perhaps time is only a temporary illusion, a scaffold erected to keep continuity intact, destined to vanish when the reboot comes. Even causality, the chain of reason itself, breaks under pressure. In quantum entanglement, particles separated by light years behave as though linked, instantaneously, defying the law that nothing moves faster than light. Cause and effect are not distinct. They collapse into something stranger, correlation without mediation, unity without distance. How can rules hold if their most basic assumption, that causes precede effects, can be broken? Perhaps it is because the rules themselves are not permanent. Perhaps entanglement is not a miracle but a message. The code of reality can be rearranged. Every paradox in physics may be less a mystery and more a warning. Black holes, singularities, tunneling, entanglement, the Planck scale, they are not errors in our equations. They are hints that the equations themselves are fragile, that the system is unstable, that the reboot is inevitable. Imagine a building groaning before collapse, cracks spreading across its foundation. Physics is that building. Its paradoxes are the cracks. Its singularities are the ruptures. And the collapse may not be local. It may be cosmic. The universe may already be leaning toward its own reboot, trembling at the seams, the rules stretch so thin they can no longer hold. To live in such a world is to live in fragility. It is to know that the rules you trust are temporary, that the continuity you depend on is an illusion, that the fabric of reality can tear without warning. Yet, in that fragility lies the strange poetry of existence. For what could be more miraculous than life blooming in the cracks, thought flowering in the fractures, love persisting in a universe that is not guaranteed to continue? Every moment is a defiance, every breath a victory against collapse. We do not live in stability. We live in the trembling pause before the reboot. And so, we return to the question, if physics itself can break, if continuity itself can collapse, what prevents the universe from switching off entirely? Perhaps nothing. Perhaps it has already happened. And perhaps what we call reality is only the restored program, still running, still trembling, waiting for the next inevitable break. What if the universe does not remember? What if existence itself is forgetful, its continuity not preserved, but rewritten, like a dream retold differently each time it is recalled? Memory is the thread we trust to keep identity intact. But what if the cosmos itself has no memory, only the illusion of one? What if reality is not a story remembered, but a story improvised, forgetting its own lines as it goes, and covering the gaps with silence? Human memory is fragile. Each recall is a reconstruction, not a replay. Details vanish, sequences blur, and with every recollection, the original drifts further away. Now, imagine the same fragility at the scale of existence. Perhaps the universe, too, reconstructs itself each instant, not preserving the past, but inventing it anew, like a storyteller covering holes in a tale. The cold voids across billions of light years may not be empty by chance. They may be the places where memory failed, where the cosmos forgot to fill the page. Even time itself may not be continuous, but stitched, each moment overwriting the one before. If so, what we call history may be nothing but the most recent version of memory, the draft that survived the reboot. Think of how you wake from a dream. For a moment, it feels vivid, undeniable. Then, within seconds, it begins to dissolve, fragments fading until you cannot recall what was real and what was invented. The universe may operate the same way. It may awaken into itself each instant, carrying just enough continuity to feel seamless, but letting the rest dissolve into silence. The dream is convincing only because you are inside it. To step outside would be to see the gaps, the missing frames, the overwritten pasts, but you cannot step outside. You live inside the forgetting. The Mandela effect and déjà vu may be evidence of this cosmic amnesia. When entire groups remember the same false history, perhaps it is not false at all. Perhaps it is a remnant of a version that was overwritten, a draft the universe discarded. When you feel you have lived a moment before, perhaps you have. Not in this continuity, but in the one before the forgetting. These are not tricks of the brain. They are echoes of memory in a reality that cannot hold memory. Physics too whispers of forgetting. Entropy, the relentless arrow of time, is not only disorder increasing, it is information lost. Every second that passes, details vanish forever into chaos, never to be retrieved. The universe does not preserve its past, it discards it. Stars burn hydrogen into ash, galaxies scatter, black holes swallow data in silence. Even when Hawking radiation leaks information back, it is not the story itself, but a smear, an echo. The universe is not an archivist, it is an eraser. What if dark energy itself is not expansion, but forgetting? The farther galaxies drift, the less connected we become to them, the more of the past is erased from view. Perhaps the acceleration is not a push outward, but a deletion inward, continuity thinning at the edges until memory itself collapses. The great voids may be the blank pages, the empty spaces where the universe simply failed to remember to write. If the universe forgets, what does that mean for you? Your identity depends on memory. Without it, you are not continuous. You are not yourself. Each night as you sleep, your memory drifts, fragile, vulnerable. Each morning you awaken, convinced of continuity only because fragments survived. What if the universe does the same? Each cycle it awakens, reconstructs, invents just enough to convince itself that it has always been. But in truth, it has forgotten more than it remembers. And we are fragments of what it chose to recall. Consider the phenomenon of missing time. People speak of hours, sometimes days, that seem to vanish without explanation. They are dismissed as errors of perception. But what if they are not errors? What if they are genuine gaps in continuity, moments the universe forgot to render, leaving those who notice stranded between versions? The silence of those gaps may be the most honest sound in existence, the silence of nothing remembered. The ancient myths may have intuited this. Culture spoke of gods who rewrote history, who destroyed worlds and created new ones, who carried forward only what they wished to preserve. Flood myths, apocalypse tales, cycles of destruction and renewal, all may be cultural echoes of cosmic forgetting, stories passed down because somewhere deep in human intuition lies the suspicion that continuity is not eternal. The fear of death itself may be rooted in this cosmic amnesia. To die is to be forgotten by the universe, erased from continuity. Memory is not just human, it is cosmic, and forgetting is not just loss, it is annihilation. If the universe itself is forgetful, then immortality is impossible. Even if you lived forever, reality may forget you, and when it forgets, you vanish, not only from the present, but from the past, as though you never existed at all. Yet perhaps forgetting is also what allows existence to continue. To remember everything would be to drown in detail, to choke on infinite data. Forgetting is the only way to move forward. Just as the brain must discard most of what it perceives, the universe must discard most of what it has been. Without forgetting, there could be no story, only static. The reboot is not a flaw, but the mercy of erasure, the gift of a blank page. So the question is not whether the universe forgets. It does. The question is how much it will forget next time, and will it forget you? What happens to you when the universe reboots? Not galaxies, not stars, not space itself, but you. Your thoughts, your awareness, the fragile flame behind your eyes. If the cosmos can be switched off and on, what does that mean for consciousness? Do you return exactly as you were, or is every reboot a copy? Indistinguishable but not original. The ship of Theseus asks, if every plank is replaced, is it still the same ship? Apply that question to yourself. Every 7 years, most of the atoms in your body are replaced. Yet you feel continuous. You feel like you. But what if that continuity is only an illusion, stitched together by memory? If the universe can restart, then every particle that makes you could be replaced instantly and you would never know. You would awaken in a restored version, convinced of seamless continuity. But are you still you, or are you a copy? Consciousness is not stored in the atoms themselves, but in the patterns, the flows, the relationships. If those patterns can be recreated, then the reboot recreates you. But is recreation identity or imitation? The brain is already filled with illusions of continuity. Split brain experiments show that identity can divide, that two minds can inhabit one body, each unaware of the other. Which is the real you? Both? Neither? If a reboot restores you perfectly, the same paradox applies. The you who continues may only believe they are original, while the you that ended is gone forever. Think of sleep. Each night you vanish into unconsciousness, and each morning you awaken, assuming continuity because memory stitches the gap. But what if you do not awaken? What if a copy awakens, convinced of being you, while the true you never returns? Would that matter? To the copy, no difference exists. To the original, there is no voice left to object. The reboot may be indistinguishable from survival, but indistinguishable is not the same as identical. Now, imagine the switch flipped not once, but 1,000 times a second. Each instant you vanish. Each instant you return. Each return is perfect, but each return is a copy. In that model, you have never been continuous. You have only ever been a succession of versions, each believing itself the same, each unaware of its predecessors. The illusion of continuity is the most persistent trick of consciousness. But illusions can still carry meaning. If every moment is a new you, then life itself is an endless chain of brief existences, each lasting only long enough to hand its memory to the next. The terrifying part is that you would never know. Your awareness has no window to perceive its own erasure. You cannot feel the moment when you stop. You cannot feel the instant when the next version begins. Continuity is assumption, not fact. And if the universe reboots, that assumption becomes even more fragile. Each version may exist only as long as the switch is on. If it flickers off, you are gone. If it flickers back on, a new you continues. The gap is invisible because nothing remains to perceive it. Philosophers wrestle with this in thought experiments. Imagine teleportation. Your body disassembled into particles and reassembled elsewhere. Is the traveler who arrives the same as the one who left? Most would say yes, until you consider the possibility that the original was destroyed and only a copy remains. That is the reboot problem in miniature. The universe itself may teleport us through non-existence, reassembling us each time it resumes. We feel seamless only because no one survives to remember the discontinuity. Identity becomes a paradox. Are you defined by memory? Then a copy with your memory is you. Are you defined by continuity? Then, a rebooted you is not you, but an imposter indistinguishable from the original. Are you defined by essence, by soul? Then, what happens to the soul when the switch flips? Is it preserved, or does it vanish with each interruption? These questions have no answers, only fears. And yet, perhaps the illusion is enough. If you cannot tell the difference between survival and replacement, if each reboot feels like continuity, then perhaps continuity is nothing more than feeling. You live, you love, you suffer, you wonder, all while standing on the edge of annihilation. Does it matter if each moment is a copy, if the experience itself remains? Perhaps identity is not permanence, but repetition. Perhaps to be human is not to be original, but to be convinced. But the thought lingers. If the universe reboots one final time and chooses not to restore you, then you are gone, not by death, not by pain, but by absence. No copy remains, no continuity survives. That possibility is the truest terror of the switch. What if the switch was never blind? What if it has always been deliberate, intentional, pressed by a hand we cannot see? If the universe can turn off and on, then someone or something may hold the power to decide when. Perhaps it is not chaos that governs the flicker of existence, but design. And if there is design, then there may be architects, invisible, silent, but present in every scar we mistake for mystery. For thousands of years, humans have imagined such figures. Gods who create, gods who destroy, gods who flood and burn and restore. We thought them metaphors. Perhaps they were memories. Perhaps every myth of death and rebirth is the cultural echo of a reboot, a survival of memory from a universe erased and restarted. Ancient voices said the world ended many times. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps it did. And only fragments of the story survived in us. Today we speak in different words. We say simulation instead of creation, code instead of fate. But the suspicion remains the same. If the universe can reboot, perhaps it is a system, a machine, a simulation watched over by maintainers. Dark energy, anomalies, the cold scars of physics. They may be not natural accidents, but maintenance logs, glitches left behind when the program reset. And if there is a program, then there are programmers. Who are they? Aliens beyond imagining? Post-human descendants running models of their past? Or perhaps the universe itself? Not unconscious, but aware, resetting itself when it falters, repairing itself the way a living mind forgets trauma. Imagine beings to whom universes are tools, tested, discarded, restarted. For them, the death of a cosmos is no tragedy. It is a routine. For us, it is the end of all meaning. Yet, if they exist, then we are not meaningless. We are chosen, even if we are temporary. If the architects exist, we would never see them. A program cannot see its programmer. A dream cannot see its dreamer. But we may see the signs they leave behind. Anomalies in cosmic background radiation, unexplained constants, coincidences too precise to be chance. These may be messages, or they may be mistakes. Every glitch we call unexplainable may be nothing more than evidence that the system was restored, patched, or corrected. The architects leave no direct trace because they do not need to. The system works as long as we believe in its continuity. We search for them, but we may already be staring at their fingerprints, mistaking them for mystery. The thought is not comforting. To know that someone could end us with a decision, with the press of a switch, is to recognize our fragility. We are not permanent. We are permitted. But perhaps this is no different from what we already know. Life itself is fragile, subject to accident and catastrophe. The difference here is scale. If the universe can be rebooted by will, then our fragility is infinite. The very laws we trust can be rewritten without warning. Still, there is a strange kind of hope in this suspicion. If someone holds the switch, then existence is not meaningless. It is not random. It is chosen. Even if temporary, it is maintained. Perhaps the architects run the system not for cruelty, but for curiosity, to see what arises, to see what survives, to see what consciousness can become. In that case, our lives are not meaningless accidents. They are experiments, fleeting but significant. To the architects, we may be data. To us, we are everything. But what if the architects are indifferent? What if we are no more significant than sparks from a fire, useful only as long as they last? The The reboot would then not be mercy or judgment, but routine, no different from restarting a failing program. The meaning we cling to would be erased without hesitation. If so, then the architects are not gods but technicians, and we are not souls but simulations. The terror lies in the thought that both possibilities feel the same to us. Whether we are cherished or disregarded, we still vanish when the switch is pressed. Perhaps the most disturbing thought of all is that the architects may be us. One day, humans may build simulations so vast, so precise, that the beings inside believe they are real. We may reboot those worlds as casually as we reboot machines today. And if we can do this, why believe it has not already been done to us? The cycle of creators and creations may stretch infinitely, each universe inside another, each rebooting the ones below, each trembling at the mercy of the one above. If that is true, then we live in recursion. We are simulations who simulate, architects who are themselves the architecture of another. The switch exists at every level, and meaning becomes neither random nor divine, but recursive, a chain of purpose stretching forever, never answering its own origin. So we are left with silence, with scars, with the suspicion that our reality is not our own. If architects exist, they remain hidden. If they are absent, then the universe reboots itself blindly. Both possibilities haunt us. Both strip away certainty. Both remind us that continuity is a gift, not a right. And in the end, whether the switch belongs to physics or to hands unseen, it can always be pressed again. What if reality has never been continuous? What if existence itself is not a river, but a strobe, flickering in and out of being so quickly that we mistake the flashes for permanence? Perhaps the universe does not flow. It blinks. Perhaps you yourself are not a steady flame, but a sequence of sparks, each new, each separate, each convinced it has always been burning. We live in the flicker. Every second of consciousness may be nothing but a rapid succession of discrete frames, stitched together by memory. The illusion of flow is born from the gaps being too small to notice. Like a film reel projected so quickly that still images become motion, our reality may be a reel of existence projected frame by frame. Between each frame, nothing. Between each instant, absence. Yet the speed is so overwhelming that absence becomes invisible, and all we see is life. Consciousness may not survive the flicker. It may be the flicker itself. The brain, with its oscillations and rhythms, may be tuned not to continuous time, but to these discrete pulses of existence. Every thought, every sensation, every act of recognition may be an echo of the strobe. The universe turns off, turns on, turns off, turns on, and in the beat between, we are born anew. Imagine staring at a light bulb powered by alternating current. The bulb is not truly continuous. It blinks on and off dozens of times per second, but your eye cannot perceive the gaps. You see a steady glow. Existence may be the same. The off states are invisible, the on states convince us of permanence. But in truth, you are vanishing constantly, dissolving into nothing and then reappearing. Your continuity is the illusion created by the persistence of perception. You do not survive the flicker. You are recreated by it, endlessly, mercilessly, invisibly. Physics itself hints at this. Quantum mechanics speaks of discrete quanta, indivisible packets. Time itself may be quantized, measured not in infinite continuity, but in indivisible ticks at the Planck scale. Between those ticks, does reality exist at all, or does it blink out, waiting for the next tick to return? The math suggests discreteness, and discreteness suggests flicker. If time is not smooth, then continuity is not real. And if continuity is not real, then existence is a dance of vanishings and reappearings, a strobe light cosmos mistaken for flow. What does this mean for memory? It means memory is an invention. When you recall your past, you recall only the frames preserved by the flicker. The gaps are erased, overwritten, forgotten. You believe in a past that was never continuous. You believe in a self that has never been unbroken. The truth may be that you are not one person stretched across years, but a succession of billions of selves, each flickering into existence for a moment, carrying forward the memory of the last. You are the wave made from drops, the fire made from sparks, the melody made from notes separated by silence. Consider music. A single note does not create a song. It is the succession, the rhythm, the intervals of silence that give rise to meaning. Consciousness may be the same. Each flicker is a note, each gap a silence, and together they create the symphony we call life. The terror is that the symphony is not continuous. It is a sequence of vanishings. The beauty is that the vanishings make the music possible. Without the silence, there is no song. Without the flicker, there is no awareness. Have you ever experienced the sensation of losing time, of hours collapsing into moments, or moments stretching into eternities? Perhaps these are glimpses of the flicker revealed. When the rhythm changes, when the speed of the strobe falters, perception itself bends. Time feels distorted not because your mind fails, but because it brushes against the hidden structure of flickering reality. Dreams, déjà vu, missing time, they may all be signs that the flicker is not perfect, that the illusion of flow is fragile. The cosmic scale mirrors this. Pulsars blink across the void with hypnotic regularity. Quasars flash echoes of their light as if reality itself replays moments. Even the cosmic microwave background hums like static, a leftover rhythm of the first flicker. The universe does not hide its pulse. It beats everywhere, in the smallest quanta and the largest galaxies. We mistake the beat for background noise. Perhaps it is the drum that makes all things possible. If the universe flickers, then the reboot is not an exception. It is the rule. Every instant is a reboot. Every frame is a restart. The great cosmic reboots we fear may be only the largest scale of the same pattern that defines our existence every moment. You have already vanished countless times while listening to these words. You have already been replaced by versions of yourself who believe they have been here all along. Your continuity is nothing but faith in a process too fast to question. This realization is both devastating and liberating. Devastating because it strips away the comfort of permanence. Liberating because it reveals that survival is not continuity, but renewal. You are reborn constantly, endlessly, mercifully. Death, then, is not alien to you. You experience it every instant, only to return in the next flicker. The final death may be only the moment when the flicker ceases entirely, when the strobe goes dark. What then is consciousness? It is the illusion that the flickers connect. It is the memory stitched across vanishings. It is the story told by sparks to convince themselves they are flame. And yet, what an extraordinary illusion it is. Out of nothingness, awareness arises. Out of silence, song. Out of flicker, self. If the universe is a strobe, then consciousness is its shimmer, the reflection in the gaps, the ghost of continuity haunting the discontinuous. So we live in the flicker, never truly continuous, never truly permanent. We live in the mercy of reappearings, and in the rhythm of vanishings and returns, we find meaning, beauty, love. Perhaps we are not meant to be steady flames. Perhaps we are meant to be sparks, dazzling for an instant, reborn with each blink of reality. And perhaps, when the final flicker comes, when the light goes out and does not return, it will not feel different at all. It will feel like what we have always known, silence between sparks. What if there is no return? What if one day the flicker ends, the switch falls, and the universe simply does not wake again? For as long as we imagine a reboot, we imagine comfort. Silence followed by sound, darkness followed by light. But there may come a moment when silence remains silence, when the light does not return, when continuity ends forever. We have always feared endings we can imagine. The firestorm that devours the sky, the ice that locks the oceans, the stars fading into cold dust. These are endings with survivors, or at least with witnesses. But the final shutdown is of another kind. It leaves no survivors because it erases survival itself. It leaves no witnesses because perception is erased with the stage. It is not apocalypse, not judgment, not even tragedy. It is absence, so complete that even the idea of loss does not remain. To speak of the end is already to say too much, for the end erases even the question. Physics whispers of it in equations that stretch toward infinity. Heat death waits at the horizon, a universe cooled into silence, each particle spread too thin to meet another. But even this is still a kind of continuity. The deeper terror is discontinuity, the flicker that fails. Imagine each moment of existence as a frame projected in quick succession. The illusion of flow is born because the gaps are short. But what if the projection slows? What if the frames fall apart? The illusion breaks. The motion ceases. The film burns out. And when there is no next frame, there is no story at all. Perhaps this unraveling has already begun. Galaxies rush from each other, faster and faster. The web of the cosmos grows thinner, stretched across distances where no signal can pass. Stars die, black holes fade, energy itself scatters into darkness. It is not only expansion, it is dissolution. It is the cloth of being fraying thread by thread, until the loom is bare. We call it acceleration, but perhaps it is starvation. The universe feeding on itself, growing emptier with each heartbeat, until the heartbeat fails. And when it fails, there will be no sound. There will be no last instant, no final thought, no farewell. The shutdown does not announce itself. It arrives only as absence, and absence cannot be known. The silence does not echo. The dark does not remember. The end is not something to be experienced, because experience itself is the first thing it erases. Yet, in contemplating it, we awaken. For to know that everything can vanish is to know how extraordinary it is that anything exists at all. Every breath becomes miraculous when you see how fragile breath is. Every act of love becomes holy when you see that it burns against the certainty of erasure. The final shutdown gives weight to the present, for the present may be the only thing that will ever exist. To live in the face of that silence is to live more fiercely, to feel more deeply, to love more urgently. Meaning may never have been about permanence. Perhaps meaning is the defiance of impermanence. We are sparks burning briefly in the dark. We are voices singing only for a moment before the silence returns. We are the fragile assertion of presence against the vastness of absence. If continuity is only temporary, then meaning is born in its brevity. Without fragility, nothing matters. Without the risk of silence, no song has beauty. But still the question lingers. Is silence truly final? Could the shutdown itself be a seed, absence the soil for a new beginning? Every myth has whispered it, from destruction, creation, from silence, music, from void, light. Perhaps what we call the end is only another kind of reboot, one we cannot see, one whose rhythm lies beyond our perception. Or perhaps not. Perhaps silence is all that waits, the final truth against which all illusions collapse. The uncertainty is the weight we carry. We do not know. We cannot know. And yet, we live. We love. We create stories, paint skies, build monuments, raise children, and whisper prayers. Not because we will outlast the silence, but because we burn in spite of it. Perhaps that is the truest purpose, to blaze against nothingness, to fill the flicker with all the intensity we can before the light goes dark. So imagine it now. The switch falls, the flicker ends, the silence does not lift. There is no reboot. There is no after. The universe exhales once and never inhales again. That is the terror. That is the final shutdown. But until that day comes, we are here. Until then, we breathe. Until then, we burn. And perhaps, when the silence finally arrives, it will not matter that it does not end. Because for this moment, in this flicker, we lived.